Hey everyone, what's up? Okay, so this is a direct cam, all that. No biggie, I just wanted to get this shit out fast because I gotta go soon. It's pretty late for me right now. Anyway, so what was one of the topic I'm replying to was a tag that I got from Biyamo is Evil. And it was about your worst experience in school and your worst teacher. Um, Now, I didn't want to sound like Multi-Fire basically tagged me for something like this, very similar, way before. So I don't want to sound like I don't want it to like come off offensive, like I'm choosing one guy over the other. No, 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 don't take it personally. I'm just a very, very lazy guy. Okay, so it's very hard for me to even remember making like grade school or high school because I hated those so much that I pushed them to the back of my memory. Like I definitely tried to avoid talking or thinking about that shit for so long. I would say my worst experience in school was, oh gee, you know what? I did a blog TV thing about this. It was pretty much the whole thing. I was just a guy who didn't really fit. I didn't really fit in. I didn't really fit with like the bulwark or the order of the day, you know. So I didn't do too well in school. It was almost like I was waiting for someone to tell me why it was important that I should do this. And every time they told me why it was important, I was somehow, I don't know, I was smart enough. Maybe it was because I played too many video games or I saw too many things on TV, but I could figure out at a young age who was BSing me. And pretty much whenever they explained the importance of education, they were always BSing. They never told you the truth. And pretty much the truth is they want you to be able to go out and get a job. And that's kind of selfish from society's standpoint, but at the same time, hey, that's just how it works. They should have just been straight up and honest with you. You know, get an education, go get a job. And I mean, it's not like it's all that hard. They should have just come out and said it straight up. I don't know if that would have changed anything though. Pretty much, I wasn't accepted into my social environment until very, very late age. And that was when I started to realize that all I had to do was pretend to be someone else, and then people would like me. And then I eventually learned how I didn't have to pretend to be someone else. I just had to parrot or mirror whatever people told me. And I could do so in such a way that would never make it so that I was actually taking an opinion on something. It would just be like, I would just be so plain and unabrasive that people would start to like me. So I started getting quite a few friends. But I always hung out with the weird kids because the weird kids are who I identify with. So I would say the worst policy that's ever happened in school was, I guess, a zero tolerance policy in grade school. Because I was thrown out of school so many times that I thought the only thing I could do with my life was live in fucking prison or something. I felt like a prisoner. I felt like being thrown out of school was being thrown out of society, and I felt like that's what they were training me to be, someone who was a prisoner, you know? When they put you out in the hall, I had a little tally of how many times I was put out in the hall in grade 6, and that tally was fucking huge, man. People were even commenting on the size of it. They'd be like, that's fucking huge, man. I said, I know. I didn't learn anything in fucking school because I was always kicked out of school. And I mean, some people would react, well, that's your fucking fault for being kicked out of school. And I'd say, well, you know what? I mean, I was a kid. We don't hold kids too accountable for their own actions. So why is it suddenly now when it was me getting kicked out all the time, now, oh, that's straight up your fault now? Where does the accountability, where does that happen? But anyway, I'd say the worst teacher I ever had, so many of them were bad. I really can't. I know I'm probably cheating. We've all had bad teachers, right? But I can't really think of a single one that was all that bad. Pretty much just none of them really wanted to deal with me. So they were all bad in some way in that they didn't really try. But then again, I was probably a really bad student, so I can't really blame them for not trying. I can't really point one out specifically and say that is the bad guy. Can't be Scarface here. None of them are Scarface. One guy stands out though, and that he wasn't bad. He was actually the most chill teacher ever, and this is why it's weird, because he was the guy who tried to be very professional. He'd sat back, and this was like a communications and technology course.
He sat back and he said, okay, you have 2 assignments this entire year. First of all, you are supposed to come up with, proposal and write a standard proposal. He gave us about a week to do that. A week after the start, he gave us this assignment the first day, and we could hand it in basically Monday the next week. And it was like we were supposed to come up with a design proposal, but we only had one project that we could work on. So we had to come up with a design for you know what I mean? We had to come up with that for one specific thing that everyone else had to do. So it wasn't even really much of a proposal. And he gave us like failing grades, pretty much, all of them. Because it was like, I don't know, I guess we didn't know how to do it. He never really taught us. It was the first day of fucking class. And he said, oh no, this would never work out. And so he explained what a proper one was and gave us the chance and said, okay, so we did okay. And everyone got like a huge grade on it, because I guess he stopped caring the second time around. So when report cards came around, it was great, because in that class everyone had like a huge mark, because the guy didn't even give a shit. We only had one thing that we handed in, and he pretty much passed everyone on it and disregarded the other thing. So when it came time to actually do it, what he told us, what we had to do was we had to build a windmill. And we had uh, like months to do this. And it had to generate a certain amount. And if it could, and he marked our grade based on how well we could do it. Our entire course, our entire class was this one project. And I don't think that many people did well on it. We did, but not many people did. And rather than fail the entire class, he told us one day, he told us that, everyone was just going to get an 80 because we didn't do so well, but he can't fail everyone. So we were just going to all get 80s. That guy was the worst teacher ever, because when he should have been teaching, he sat back and was doing random shit on his computer. And it wasn't the fact that he wanted us to work in a professional environment, it was that he expected us to work in a professional environment, and he never taught us how. And it's kind of like you're not born with the knowledge of how to work in a professional environment. You're supposed to get some instruction on how to do that. So when people had questions, he always ignored them, because he was an asshole. So that guy stands out as the worst teacher ever. Because although people really enjoyed the class because they never had to do any work because they could just goof off, it was like that was the biggest waste of time I've ever had in my life. I didn't learn a single damn thing from it, really. I kind of learned how to learn shit on my own, but then again, I could have just learned how to do that on my own, and I did. So, fuck him. I'd say some of the worst policies, I already said zero tolerance, but there was another policy in my high school that was basically no piercings, no dyed hair, no nothing. It was literally, you all had to look alike. You could dye your hair, but it had to be a natural color. It was kind of bullshit. Especially bullshit because people would actually take these proposals and go to the PTA meetings, and they would have huge amounts of people in student council in favor for this bullshit. And no, they would always refuse. Actually, there's another thing. Speaking of student council members were appointed. They weren't elected in my place, and I always hated this. It was a students' council. It was student representatives, and what they decided to choose was they were chosen representatives based on their grades. And I'll tell you this straight up: if you got into it, you didn't leave until you were done high school. You kept getting reappointed, because the people that were appointed were like the faculty's favorites and shit like that. Oh man, fuck. I don't think a single human being has a freaking positive experience in high school. And if you did, are you still living in high school? Because you might be. Because you might be regretting that those days are over if you've had a positive experience. Maybe that's a good thing that high school sucks. Because if it didn't suck, you'd want to keep going back to it. The only reason I want to go back to it is because we had great social environment, but yeah, maybe it's supposed to suck ass. Anyway, that's my response.